Hello everyone. This video deals with Scotland at the beginning of the 18th century. At the beginning of the century, during the reign of Queen Elizabeth, England and Scotland ceased to be active enemies. They adopted different forms of ecclesiastical polity. Ecclesiastical means a form of governance by the church, which differentiated the character of social and intellectual life. During the accession of James VI to the English throne, there was dual monarchy. The social life in the two countries was in two separate channels. There were many economic and physical obstacles, and communication is hindered not only by tariff but also by the state of the Great North Road. Next, we are going to see about the impact of the Act of Union of 1707. The union between Scotland and England created Great Britain. There were many unpopular political moves at that time. However, the Act of Union of 1707 provided great opportunity to the Scots parliamentarian. The Scots were either a Jacobite or a Presbyterian. About the Parliament, the Edinburgh Parliament never stood in the social life and imagination of the people. It held its sessions in the great hall of the High Street known as the Parliament House. A new parliament was set up in Scotland in 1703. It was an act of security which gave permission to Scotland to decide its own succession. The English were worried about the new nationalist mood in Scotland, which brought out a resurgence of Jacobinism. The English Parliament was an alien act. The Scottish Parliament was angered over the war between England and France. During the rule of Queen Anne, the political biunion between the two countries solved the problem. Next, we are going to see about the lairds. Laird is a person who owns a large estate. The interior of the house of lairds was devoid of luxuries. Tea was considered as an expensive medicine. There was family and religious discipline in Scotland, and they were very strict in following Presbyterian method. Nearly all Scottish families attended either the parish church or the Episcopalian meeting house. There was poverty and religious controversy which formed national character. It overrode the acute political divisions, uniting all Scots with the mental and moral antagonism to the wealthiest. About the intellectual unity of the nation. The Scottish lairds provided their children good education, and they sent their children to the village school. Education inculcated in the young lairds love of his native land and landscape, which brought out sympathy with the tenants who were their classmates. In the age of Queen Anne, poverty was bitter and religion too was narrow. There were seeds of greatness which formed national mind and character. About school education, there was reformation in Scotland, which brought out which made a resolution that a school should be set up in every parish, and it was an act of the Scottish Parliament in 1656. Latin was very often taught in these schools, and the older and better scholars prepared for the university. And this university was attended by students of all classes. Houses of the peasantry. The houses of the peasantry had one story and one room, and the floor was bare ground, where cattle lived on one end of the room and people at the other. Often there was no partition between cattle and people. Dressings. The Scots wore clothes which were woven in the immediate neighborhood by the local weavers and tailors. Men wore broad, flat, round blue bonnets of wool. The laird and the minister felt hat. The minister here means priest, preached his sermon in lay neck cloth, coloured coat, and waistcloth of homely wool. Agriculture of the nation. Farmers tilled their lands together and they shared the profits of the run rig system. And the farm was divided into two types, that is infield and outfield. In infield, all the manure that could be collected, including sometimes the thatch covering the turf on the goodman's cottage roof. So in infield, manure was used, and in outfield, no manure is used. In outfield, 3/4 of the local average of the land was left unmanured. Food of the Scots. Oats was a staple food of the Scots, and barley was used to make scones. Kale, peas, and beans were grown in the cottage kitchen. Potatoes were grown by a few gardeners. Source of agricultural wealth. Sheep and cattle were the source of agricultural wealth of the Scots. Sheep's wool was used in home cloth manufacture. Sheep and cattle were sold in great numbers, and stock breeding flourished in Galloway. Marketing of black cattle was one of the sources of agricultural wealth of Scots. Standard of life. The standard of life was very low in Scotland. The poor law system was totally different in the two countries. In England, the poor were taken care of by compulsory parish rates, and in Scotland there was no such compulsory rate. The endowments of the poor were taken care of by private persons. The Scots were honest people. Housebreaking and robbery were unknown to the city. About journalism of the nation. There was no native journalism. 2 papers were issued 3 times a week at Edinburgh Gazette. And the names of those journalism are Gazette and Courant, which were published in 1705. Both were given permission by the Privy Council. With the disappearance of the Privy Council, the Edinburgh press gained freedom. Decline in witchcraft. And there was decline of belief in the upper strata of English society with regard to witchcraft. And the upper class were very dubious of witchcraft. And supposed witches were put to death in Queen Anne's Scotland. And some of them were banished from the realm. Modern Scotland. Because of the negotiated treaty, there was a preparation for modern Scotland, which united the parliamentary and commercial systems of the two countries in 1707, which paved the way for modern Scotland. Thank you for watching.